It's Monday and time for the Back to Business podcast, featuring Calgary's industry leaders. Welcome today's show host, Kim Hayden.
You know what's said, show me your friends and I'll show you the future. And making friends in business and creating collaborations is the future of success. Our guest today, Daniel Lawrance-Lopez, is an expert at this, and I'm super excited to share with you all he has to say, from his insurance to his mentorship. But first, our land acknowledgement.
In the spirit of reconciliation, we acknowledge that we live, work, and play on the traditional territories of the Blackfoot Confederacy, Siksika, Ga'aina, Piikani, the Tsuut'ina, the E'ahe Nakota Nations, the Métis Nation Region 3, and all people who make their homes in the Treaty 7 region of southern Alberta.
Alrighty, welcome to the show, Daniel.
Thank you. Thanks for having me. I'm so pumped to be here.
Well, this is exciting because you're one, for the new year, you're one of the first young professionals that we're having on the podcast.
Sweet.
And that's really one of the goals here at the Back to Business Calgary podcast and our parent, which is the Calgary or the CPC club, right? So the Calgary Petroleum Club, is to really do a high focus on the young professionals because they are the leaders of where this city is going, right? But before we dive into everything that you're doing, if you could give us a little bit of framework as to who is Daniel.
Oh, man. So born and raised in Calgary, Alberta. I love anything to do with adrenaline or adrenaline-related stuff, activities. Love it. Mom's from Guatemala, dad's from India. I got 2 younger siblings. I just got married 3 months ago. Love my wife, love hanging out. I enjoy having fun, I enjoy life, and I'm just excited for the future. And anything to do, sales, business, finance, money, I'm all about that in any way I can give value, whether it's through stuff like this or speaking or serving the community. I'm all about that.
Okay, now I have to say, if you're just listening to this podcast, do jump over to our YouTube channel. We are going to be putting a video up of this interview, and you got to see Daniel because you know what? You remind me a bit of Prince. As soon as you sat down, you get that, don't you? And I mourned when Prince passed. I was huge, I think I spent, back when I was a kid, the movie theater tickets were like $5 a pop, right? For the real theater, for the full-blown theater. And I went and watched Purple Rain. I think I lived at the theater for a week. And I have to say, just right off the bat, as soon as you walked in, it's like, okay, I already know I'm going to like this guy.
That's too funny. That's too funny.
You've heard that before then. That's
I'm missing the eyeliner and then,
That's easily remedied. Yeah. So let's talk about what you do because it sounds like there's lots of options for you. It sounds like you have lots of interests and lots of skill sets, but what do you do with all that?
So my main bread and butter right now is I run my own insurance practice alongside with my wife. So we focus on helping business owners protect risks and take advantage of different tax options out there using different insurance vehicles. So we focus on life and health insurance. Obviously, that can range from disability insurance to life insurance. So that's sort of the simple, in a nutshell, version of it.
And health insurance is now with the way that the economy is going, having benefits for your workers is actually really becoming that differentiating factor. If I take this job over here at $25 an hour, or I take this job over here at $25 an hour, that seems to be the differentiator. I'm going to dive into a few things around from an entrepreneur or an SME, a small business enterprise perspective. Walk me through the insurance world, and is it because most people, when they think of insurance for their business and such, they're thinking it's going to be thousands of dollars a month. What does that kind of look like, especially here in Calgary for our developing businesses?
Yeah, so there's 3 main types of insurance that I sell, so to speak, aside from group benefits, which most people are familiar with: life insurance, disability insurance, and critical illness insurance. So really where I come in when I work with a lot of corporations and business owners is they have money that's trapped inside their corporation and they're trying to find ways to get it out, or they're trying to find an exit to the company. and they're looking at the most tax advantage way to do so. But not a lot of people realize is insurance, mainly life insurance, is a great tax haven because there's no taxes inside an insurance policy. In the income tax code, that's tax-free. So what corporations do, it's not legal tax advice, so just putting that disclaimer out there.
Yes, disclaimer, PSA here, this is not, we are not telling you what to do, we're just sharing what you do. Okay.
So, you would take money from your corporation and stuff it into an insurance policy. Typically, when you pull money out of the corporation, you pay taxes. Business owners don't like that, so they just keep it in there. But then it's not working for them, it's just sitting there. Versus you stuff it in an insurance policy, you might have a few options depending on how the policy is set up, on how it can grow in the policy. Money that is growing in your insurance policy is growing tax-free. Whereas if it grew in your corporation, you're paying 50% taxes on that. So money's growing in the insurance policy tax-free, and at the same time, it's also a life insurance policy. So you pass away, you got this massive life insurance, payout that can go back into the company, again, tax-free. So it's different ways of accessing the money in your corporation, or also you just need life insurance because if you pass away, who's going to pay taxes, when you're gone, whether it's in your business or your personal family. So in terms of the cost, it really comes down to your age and your health. Mm-hmm. Right now, mortality rates are actually decreasing. So less people are dying. I think people are dying. Yeah. So a lot of insurance companies have lowered the cost of insurance over the last couple of years, interestingly enough. So it's cheaper to get insurance now than it was 5 years ago because there's less risk, because of the advances in like research and just, where science is at and things like that. So right now is actually the cheapest time to get insurance, if you can, than it was 5-10 years ago. So in terms of cost, it just comes down to, are you a smoker? Are you healthy?
Yeah.
What's your age? Gender, women. It's cheaper for women to get insurance than men because they have less risk. They're less likely to die, which I can see why.
I have a 25-year-old son and a 34-year-old son, and I can tell you, I totally get it.
Oh yeah.
I mean, when my 34-year-old son was like 17, he got a ticket from the city of Calgary for riding his longboard while hooked onto the back of a city bus. I'm just thinking that's not really, that's so we all understand why young men or men have, Okay. So let's pull this apart. How did you get started in this? It sounds like it's a pretty solid career path that is sustainable, has growth opportunities in it, and will provide well for a family. Mm-hmm. So how did you get started in this? How did you know that this is something that you can not only do, but grow?
Mm-hmm. So it ties into the story that we were chatting about earlier a little bit. So my parents have been in the industry for about 15 years, over 15 years. So I grew up watching them build their practice and run their business. But when I graduated high school, that was not my first choice. I was a videographer for a little bit, for about a year, freelancing. And then I was doing Amazon private labeling and e-commerce for a couple years. We had family friends, very successful in their early 30s that were doing it, and they took me under their wing. And so, they knew I liked business. I've been in business since I was like grade 4. I was collecting bottles and selling stuff. So I've loved like just the entrepreneurial side of things. Before that was the sexy word, today.
Yeah.
And so I was doing e-commerce stuff. Then my, mentor, Andrew, ended up passing away from cancer. And he was 34 years old, 4 kids, all under 10 years old. And, now his wife's a single mom, sort of like this. And they had a really successful business. But when it came to finances, it was something that his wife didn't know a lot of at the time. Now, my parents were him and his wife's financial advisors. So I saw them pay out the critical illness insurance, pay out the life insurance, help, the family with everything. And, to this day, they're still clients. And so when I saw that, I was like, okay, I can make as much money as I want, but if I don't know what to do with it, it doesn't matter, right? I can build this big empire. I can, when I have a family and stuff, but if I pass away, and I have no idea how to steward this wealth and pass it to the next generation, so my family's better off, then, well, what's the point if I don't know what to do with it? So that's really when I started getting into learning mode, and I just asked my parents, okay, I need to learn more. So I got my licenses, jumped in, in the game. I think I was 19 at the time.
Wow.
So that's sort of how I started. It was about 6 years ago.
That's crazy because then that means that you've literally been working and looking at the entrepreneurial space since you were like 14.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I have experience with that. My middle son actually started his first videography and got his drone licensing and went to SAIT when he was still in high school.
Oh, wow. That's amazing. That's
His,
awesome.
all his filming. And I think that if you just know, but you touched on a very valid point. It's easy for some people to make money, but then how do you keep it?
Yeah.
And I think that is a really, really valid point. As somebody myself, and I see a lot of parallels in the sense that insurance and real estate seem to have very similar, like you have to be licensed with with a brokerage. You have to, there's a lot of parallels there. And I know that I've seen a lot of real estate agents that have tons of bus benches, but are sleeping on one too, you know?
Yeah.
And it's because of that constant churn of, you know, how do you make more money? Will you spend more money? And that's not necessarily the way business is done, right? What are some of the things that you see as being a young professional that you see that are basically, I think, I don't want to use the word failures, but shortcomings of other young professionals looking to build their brand or their business?
Oh my gosh.
Let's pull this apart a little because, you know, we want to be able to help people, and you can't help somebody if they don't know exactly maybe where some of the challenges lie.
Yeah. That's a loaded question. We could be here for 3 hours. Like,
Yes.
I'm big on branding. That's like one of my favorite conversations and topics. One of the biggest mistakes is people aren't focused on serving their audience, whether that's their clientele or whether that's their audience on social media. I find a lot of young professionals are trying to grab and chase as much money as possible. Money is not a bad thing. Money is a tool, and we all need it as much as we need oxygen if we live in, you know, the world. But I think I've noticed so many young, entrepreneurs are trying to chase, clout and this appearance without having the character to back it up. And what happens a lot of the time, there's no proverb, that says, if you have money very fast, it'll leave you even faster, right? It'll grow wings and fly away. And I think a lot of young people are, because it's easier to make money now than ever before. Yeah. Right.
And it's easy actually to make money when you're under 40. It really is. It gets much harder as you get older.
I could see that.
And under 40, because you guys are so agile.
Okay, fair enough.
That's the coolest thing is like you've been raised in the space of technology that everything is possible.
Mm-hmm. So true.
Whereas when you're over 40, 50, and I'm not speaking for everyone, but I'm just saying in general, those who have not been raised in it, we go, is it possible?
Mm-hmm. But I think the value in your generation, because you're the same age as my parents, is you've built character and you have integrity.
Yeah.
For the most part, I'd say.
We try.
We try for the most part. A lot of my generation is very much big talk and very little action. And I think the best way to build a brand is you just gotta have character. You have to do what you're gonna say you're gonna do. That's how you build brand. Right? The brand is what people say about you when you're not there. It's the people's perception of you, their thought of you when it comes to a story or something. And so I think that one of the biggest things that destroys people's brand is because they're not focused on serving others and they haven't built the character. Yeah. It's constantly asking for something when you've made no deposits. Yeah. One thing my mentor says is dig the well when you're not thirsty. So that way when it's full, you can just pull from it. Right? So it's constantly giving with no strings attached. There's a business guy right now, Alex Hormozy, in the States, and he's blown up. And his biggest thing is he gives without strings attached. He has courses that would cost tens of thousands of dollars to buy about offer creation and getting leads and stuff like that. And he just gave it away for free. Did this whole launch and everything and gave it away for free. He's like, my job is to help people go from $10 million businesses to $100 million businesses. But most of you aren't at the 10 million. So I'll just give this stuff for free, and then let's do business when you're at 10 million. So he's one of the few now whose mentality is completely different from trying to ask and trying to make the sale versus he's just giving without strings attached. And I think I guess to answer the question, I think that's the biggest problem with the logging professionals, especially online, is they are constantly asking and trying to make a sale without actually serving their audience. And they're doing that all under this, persona that they've created and fabricated online to make it seem like they're actually successful when in reality they're not.
Yeah.
Because they never built the character. Because if they made money, it was fast and they didn't have the integrity and character to hold it. And they're not giving, they're not serving. So that's sort of my long-winded answer.
No, that's awesome because it really does. I think that a lot of people don't do the research and they don't know the true numbers.
That's true.
So,
yeah,
90% of all businesses will fail in its initial conception, right? And the ones that succeed typically have a seed within that initial conception. And what's fascinating is I read that a lot of successful businesses, the founders' inspiration can be tied back between the ages of 8 and 14.
Interesting.
There's a seed that is planted somewhere in there that is so deep, either from a trauma or an inspiration, something that helps get them, that is that catalyst that sticks with them, that gives them that strength to push hard when times are hard. But I think people understanding what the statistics are allows you to be prepared. Only 9% of all startups ever achieve 7 figures. So if that's the 9%, are you willing to put in that amount of work? And understand Nike was virtually bankrupt for the first 30 years. Brene Brown taught for 30 years before she was overnight discovered. Like, we have to be very real about this. And I think some of the things you're talking about is the things that have me very concerned in that parasitic space of people feeding on top of people, because they're going overnight. And those are magic beans. Those are not real. These things do not happen. Nothing worthwhile comes easy.
Yeah, so true.
It's like last night I had the blessing and honor of sitting in the family room listening to my 3 adult children, their partners, and my grandchildren playing a game. That's hard work. When your entire family can, on their own, without you having to drive it, connect. And that's like a business. Can you get your business to perform and connect and collaborate and inspire and have fun and create that space without you having to personally drive it? You've put all the hard work in. Let's talk about collaboration. Because I think this is my take.
Yeah.
I believe that collaboration is going to be the secret sauce for success over the next year. And you have to find people, and instead of looking, I'm going, oh, they have 5 things that they do well, and one of them I also do, so I'm not going to work with them at all. Right? Let's talk collaboration. Tell me your thoughts on collaboration. Where do you see opportunities?
So I'll give you a story.
Awesome.
Personal example.
I love stories.
So I didn't share this before, but my wife and I also have an events company. So we host upscale business events twice a year. We started a year ago, 2022, I guess 2 years ago now. And it's called Project X. And it'll come full circle. So how this started was I had this idea for a just different type of networking event. I've been a lot over the years, been hundreds. Most of them, it's just a bunch of broke people talking to other broke people to try to get their business. So nothing comes out of it typically. But I wanted to do something that was different, that was more of an experience. And especially coming out of COVID, I realized looking at just stats and where people's headspace were in the business space, is that they would pay more for experiences than just to attend something. So I'm like, okay, what if I did something like that, where it was not just a networking event, but it was some type of experience that focused on genuine connection and removing all the BS of, trying to present who you are, whatever. And so I did it at the Ranchman's Club was the first one I did it at, and had 30 people, and it was like I sold out. I wanted to keep it small to focus on the experience, and I sold out. And I had 4 speakers, and I was charging like $100 a ticket. And this is my first event I'd ever done, and I was like, who's going to pay $100 a ticket? Like, I don't know, am I charging too much? And this was including like food. I had 4 speakers, I had TikTok influencer. I had my mentor, who's a big business guy.
That's like a $300 to $400 ticket.
Oh, totally.
Yeah.
So that was the first one. And it was meant to be a one-time thing. I had this itch, in my back. I had to scratch about bad events in Calgary. So I did the event. I was like, done. But everyone's like, dude, when's the next event? And I was like, I don't know. And I'm a big car guy. I like cars. So people kept asking me. So I was like, okay, you know what? It'll be August. And this event was April of 2022. So now we're in about June. And I'm like, I'm going to do another Project X in August. So 2 months later, I go to the Porsche dealership. They had a marketing guy at the time who didn't even want to talk to me. So I'm like, okay, fine. So I walk across the street. I go to Ferrari. And this is where the collaboration piece comes in. And I talked to the biz dev guy there. And I show him a video of my first event. I say, here's my vision. Here's what I want to do for Calgary. I'm just trying to, reward entrepreneurs for their hard work and just make them feel like they care, that someone cares about them, that someone sees them, knows the work they're doing, just connecting people that otherwise would never be connected. And he sort of paused and he was like, you know what? I like you. I like what you're doing. I'm going to waive the $10,000 rental fee to host an event at the dealership. Let's do an event together. I was like, up front, I'm like, awesome, thanks, appreciate it. I'm freaking out in my mind because the thing with Ferrari is they are obviously an iconic brand, but they are extremely meticulous about who they do business with and who gets to use your space. Extremely meticulous. They had an audit at the dealership several months ago where headquarters came in and they looked at the Ferrari logo on each wheel. And if it was not exactly 90 degrees perpendicular to the ground, you would get fined per wheel. Every single wheel on the floor. So they're extremely meticulous about their brand, like very cautious. So the fact that they said yes to a kid who has no right being in the events business, because I had never run an event, I only run an event, like what credibility do I have, so to speak? But they saw the vision, and their issue was they're like, we're trying to attract a younger crowd, young professionals, because we don't want to be this pretentious, old white guy club that buys Ferraris. We want to attract a lot of these younger, successful entrepreneurs to buy the cars. And that's sort of who you're bringing in. So I was like, okay. So all that to say, collaboration, I think, is such an underrated tool that if you don't have the financial resources, can get you into doors that money would not. Wouldn't matter how much money I had. I could have walked in with $100,000. Ferrari wouldn't have cared about me offering $100K to use it's the brand. They see what I was doing. They saw that there was something there. And they knew that I was willing to work with them. And so collaboration happened. And that led to so many other doors opening, over the last 18 months.
I know that CPC does a collaboration with, and I can't remember which dealerships. They've got a couple different dealerships. Oh, no way. They actually do ride nights and things like that, reveal nights with them.
Oh, no way.
And that's all in that collaboration space, right? Because everything a true believer of, your net worth is in your network,
100%.
Right?
Yeah.
What do you say to a lot of the young professionals? So people, 28 or 27 to 32 that I've worked with. So I'll say, do you want to come and do this with me? And da-da-da-da-da. And they'll say, well, I'm worth X amount of dollars an hour. And then they shut it down. And they don't realize, well, we're going to actually put 4 times that amount into the content development behind your brand, right? So what do you say to people when an opportunity comes to them? What does a good opportunity of collaboration look like?
It's a great question. First, you have to know your own values. Like, aside from the tangible financial, your cost per hour, what are your own values? And the person that you're collaborating with, do they align with those values? Because that's the biggest thing that will destroy your brand, is if people see you doing business with someone that does not align with your values. If someone saw me with a rapper and I was doing a video in like a club with like strippers and all the stuff, my brand would be destroyed.
Yeah.
Because those aren't my values.
Yeah.
So that's the first thing.
We're not judging here, folks.
Yeah. If that's your thing, man, do what you got to do. It's not my thing. But it has to align with your values. That's the biggest thing. There has to be that congruency first. So what does a good opportunity look like? I think it aligns with your values, but also knowing, like, will this help open doors down the road that you couldn't have opened yourself, or that money really couldn't have opened? I think if the answer is yes to that, I think collaboration is always worth exploring and looking into. That's how I've grown my network and my business is all collaboration. It's all gifts in kind. It's very rarely is it a transactional. It's, hey, let me open this door for you. Do you mind shooting video for me? That's why I have 4 videographers for that Ferrari event I did, was because it was like, I'll give you access to this person, and I didn't pay for video. It was a $20,000 video gig, but I didn't have to pay for it because I offered them some type of, in-kind value that was worth it to them as well. So I think it's, will it open doors for you that you couldn't have opened yourself? I think if that answer to that is yes, then I think that's a great opportunity.
Networking intimidates a lot of people, especially if it's not intuitive. If somebody's an introvert or somebody that is new or feels that maybe sometimes people feel they're batting outside of their range, right? There's a lot of things that really affect people's confidence when they walk into, or comfortability when they walk into a networking opportunity. What are some of the ways that you leverage and navigate networking? Because I just get the feel that you are like incredible at this. What are some things that you could share with other people? And this is not a young professional scenario. I know people women who are in their 40s and 50s that are exiting a corporate space, going into an entrepreneurial space, and now they're confronted with networking, and they're going, how do I do this? What is some advice or insight you could give people on having a successful network? I think we talked a little bit about knowing your core values through collaboration. Now we're at the door.
Right.
How do we leverage that? How do we work that?
It's a great question. You ask really good questions. Here is a hot take. Introverts are the best at networking.
Yes, they are. Yes, they are.
Because one thing I've found is that, and I think Ed Milet says it, I forget who says it, but when you focus on being the most interested person in the room, you do not need to be the most interesting person in the room. A lot of people think networking is about being the most exciting, the most energetic, the most interesting person in the room. It's a lot of energy. It takes a lot. There's very few people that can do that. What sets you apart and how to have a successful networking experience anywhere you go is focus on being the most interested in other people. Exactly what you're doing here is you're asking all these questions. If you do that, and I tend to find introverts are really good at asking questions because they don't want the attention on them. They try to push on other people. That's perfect. That's how you succeed at those environments, is you have to focus on other people. So that's what I would say.
Excellent. And you know what? I'm going to follow up with Daniel here. And in the show notes, I'm going to see if I can get him to give me 3 icebreakers that are really good for introverts. That would be a super cool thing to give people. Yeah. Do you think you can do that for us, Daniel? I totally put you on the spot there. So I want to close this up with a couple things. One, how do you find here at leveraging everything you've done and where you're going in your business and what you're working on between and the reality is if you are an entrepreneur, there is going to be an events application somewhere within that business plan. So saying that you do events and you're in insurance, it's actually all applicable. It's all like one thing, you know, you have to be omnipresent in today's world. How do you feel here at the CPC, at the CalPeak Club? How does this work within your growth strategy?
Great question. One for me is it helps me appreciate just what Calgary has to offer in general. Like whenever I step foot inside the club, I feel so much more focused, so much more. I'm like, there's the greats of Calgary have walked through these, rooms and sat in these chairs that I'm sitting in right now. There's just, I don't know, this feeling of greatness is at least how I would describe it when I walk into the club. Of course, networking, meeting the other people there. But I think for me, from a brand perspective too, just being a part, like bringing clients here, bringing prospects here as well. It's just that level of professionalism, especially as a younger individual where, in the finance space, people want to trust, tend to trust people that are older. So it helps me, compensate for, even though I have 6 years of experience, compensate that I look younger by having, being part of a more professional setting. It just presents me as more of an authority in my space. So from my brand perspective, it brings a lot of credibility there too.
And I want to circle all the way back around to the very beginning of our conversation. And you said you were an adrenaline junkie. Yes. You like anything that is a lot of fun. Tell us what you do when you're blowing off steam, when you're decompressing, when you're when it's that, Daniel downtime, when you're not out working the business, what do you find? What do you do?
Oh, man. Drive fast cars. Winter, snowboarding, getting into that again. In the summer and spring, paintball. I love paintballing. So that's my biggest thing. And then just anything that, might involve the risk of death, I probably will do. I'll be doing skydiving in the summer. I haven't done that yet. I'll be going with a friend. We're jumping off a plane in suits, so that'll be pretty fun. So anything that involves the risk of death, I'm probably going to do.
There you go. You should move next door to Fraser Abbott. He plays the bagpipe, and he says he can lower property values anywhere, and I'm sure kill off a few. So, poor Fraser and his bagpipes. But you know what, Daniel? This has been amazing. And like I said, folks, we're going to have all of Daniel's contact information in the show notes. I'm going to pester him for those 3 great icebreakers for introverts to have successful networking. And you know what? Look him up online. Where are you at? Instagram, Facebook?
Yeah, mainly
LinkedIn?
Instagram, LinkedIn. Yeah,
Instagram,
Daniel
LinkedIn.
Lawrence-Lopez, but Lawrence is spelled with an A, Lawrance.
Excellent. Thank you for sharing your time today.
Thanks so much. Appreciate it.
Thank you for joining us today on the Back to Business podcast. Be sure to visit calpeteclub.com, calpeteclub.com, to find out more about upcoming events, networking opportunities, and membership. If you are not already a valued member at the CPC, where we are proudly connecting and supporting Calgary's business leaders.